Hi guys, so today on the bench we've got this Philips 8833 monitor. It's a 8833 Mark 1 and this is generally regarded as the holy grail of the composite monitors. Back in the day, this was a popular monitor for people who had home computers, Atari STs, Commodore Amigas, all that kind of thing. It also displayed a video input because it had a SCART socket, and it's a very popular monitor even today. Now, the problem with this one, there's a few things wrong with it. It's a bit tatty for a start, so there's marks over the front of it. Now I bought this off eBay as a working monitor, but when it arrived, packing was poor, as a lot of people don't seem to be able to pack these monitors very well. They need a lot of packing. If you're going to ship one of these, it needs to be a big box. It needs to have plenty of packing around it because they're heavy, and when they start moving, damage can occur, and that's what's happened to this one. So there's a crack here. The casing is actually cracked. Fortunately, the tube's okay. Obviously, glass tube, and that can break if it gets struck. But yeah, the casing's broken in a couple of places. There is also a power supply switch repair attempt. If I just lift this up a little bit, you can hear things rattling around inside. I've not opened this up yet. So this power switch that was here under this tape, there is, well, I expect it's still there. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, there's the switch top, but there's a switch behind this, and these do fail a lot in these monitors. These ones, and the Commodore equivalent monitor to this, these power switches do fail quite a bit. And you can buy them online, and they're fairly easy to replace, so there's no reason why it shouldn't be replaced. But somebody has had this open and decided that they are going to put another switch under here, this one, which is ugly. It's been melted in place by the look of it, and I just don't know why that's happened, because you can buy these switches. I've actually done a video previously on a Commodore machine where I replaced the power switch. I'll stick the link in down below so you can have a look. But yeah, what I want to do is get rid of this switch and replace this switch, depending on what's inside. I mean, if they've broken all the casing and stuff around it, then I might not be able to very easily, but we'll see how we get on with that. Also, the power lead, you're not going to be able to see on here, but this lead isn't very long. It's about 1 meter and a bit long, and it should be longer than that. And this isn't the original plug. This would have had a wired plug on here, not a molded one. So someone's replaced this at some point. So I'd like to put a longer lead back on there. We have a look at the back here. It looks as though one of the pots is missing here. It's the vertical height. So with these CRTs, you always have external controls, or you usually have external controls to adjust the picture height and width. And it looks like one of them's broken there. Whether someone's had it apart and snapped it off, I don't know, but we'll have a look at that. You can see there's a couple of screws missing under there as well. So yeah, it's not in the best of shape, and I was actually going to return this, but the seller decided they didn't want it. So I've ended up with it, and we'll have a go at fixing this as best we can. There's that damage there on the screen, on the edge of the screen rather, and that might be fixable. We might be able to move that back into place. Whether we need to take the screen out to do that, I don't know. But first of all, I want to make sure that the thing works. So we'll open it up and we'll take a look inside first before we switch it on. Make sure that nothing else is damaged in there. So here we are inside, and I can see that pot there, it's not the original one though. So all I need to do really is check that that's the right value. There's 100k being put in there. So I suspect that maybe one has been snapped off in the past. I mean, it's unlikely that these would fail. So it's probably physical damage. Looking at the condition of the rest of the machine. And then we can see around here, so this is that coming out. This, I mean, it looks as though the old switch has just been taped up and a couple of wires coming out of it to that new switch. I mean, it's pretty awful, to be honest. I can also see, you're not going to be able to see here, but down there where that switch is, the new one that's been moulded in underneath, the live terminals on that switch, because it breaks this, the live mains cable coming in, and the terminals on that are literally a few millimeters away from the earthing strap that goes around the screen. So that is it's pretty dangerous. So what I'll do is, oh, I've just noticed that as well. Look at there. You see that? Just move this in a bit. So that board has snapped, and I'm guessing that is because of the poor packing as well in transit. So there's no way this would have worked. This is the power supply board. So it's a good job we checked that before I switched it on. Yeah, we'll need to get that out. It doesn't look too bad, to be honest. Let's get that board out and we'll have a look. That cable's off as well. This is a ground cable which is meant to be soldered underneath. That's been snapped off. There's two plugs on that board. This is the degaussing coil. The degauss coil is this one here. Basically just a coil of wire that runs around the screen, and I believe it's AC current. So you put AC current through the coil and it demagnetizes the screen. Sometimes if you bring a magnet close to this, speakers, unshielded speakers have magnets in, things like that. More of an issue with the old days, obviously, because CRTs were very common then. And what will happen is the magnet will produce an interference on the screen, normally like a coloured disc or a blob, like a green blob or different colours on the side of the screen. And you need to degauss it or demagnetize it. And that's what this is for. Normally these are active when you first turn on the monitor. You might hear like a bit of a, how to describe it really, a bit like a thud, I suppose, just when you first turn it on, and that's this coil demagnetizing it. That wire's just come off that switch, so that obviously wasn't fastened very well. Just snip that one off because we're not going to be using that switch. So that's the piece of board that's broken there. it looks as though it's just the fuse and this filter capacitor there, but it's not damaged any components. It is literally just the printed circuit board. Yeah, that's going to be easy enough to fix. It's literally two solder pads there, this one and this one. So what I'll do is I'll glue that on the other side, and then it's just a question of scraping off this solder resist, and you can either do that and solder the copper together, or we can just bridge these wires across just from one of these solder pads over to the other side. So that's going to work out okay. I can't see anything else in here that's broken. That's amazing, really, because this is the vulnerable part, the back of the tube, the glass tube. If we take this off, this tube is fine. The neck of these tubes are very fragile, especially if it gets dropped or banged in transit. But yeah, that's lucky that that's still intact. Everything else looks okay as far as I can tell. A few things misaligned. I think somebody's been in here, obviously. But I'll check all the other joints. I did have one of these monitors back in the day, this exact model, and the entire board had cracked across. This main board at the bottom had cracked right across, and I had to spend a long time stitching together all those pads, which worked in the end, but it was, to be honest, it was a bit too much work for what it was. It should have just retired it, but it was fixable in the end. So the switch is just falling out now. Yeah, there's those terminals. There's live terminals there, which were just right next to this earthing band. So the switch that I need screws into the end there, these two little screw points. The switch just sits there. And I have got some switches. They're not the actual original switch from this, but I've got some switches that will do. So I will get that and fit it into here, and then we'll continue. I've replaced the power cord on this, put a proper, well, I say a rewirable plug at the end. I know it's not necessary, but I like the period equipment to have the period plugs on as well. So this is a rewirable plug, which I think looks better. I was going to salvage the fuse out of the old plug, and things on this monitor just keep getting worse and worse. It has a 13 amp fuse in, which is incorrect. It should be no more than a 3 amp. And not only that, but the fuse is blown and someone has wrapped some copper wire around it. I mean, how dangerous does it get? So obviously something's happened to this monitor, probably that power switch, probably what did this, but yeah, the fuse is blown and then someone's decided to rewire it with some copper wire, which is really dangerous. Never do that. Replacement switch is fitted in the right position now. So this is the rail that we took out with the power supply board on, and that's how the switch sits on the end. Now, fortunately, somebody with a soldering iron has butchered the end of the switch cap. So this was stuck in place in the monitor. I've cut it out, but it is all twisted and melted. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this working or not. This would have sat on the end somewhere like this, and then this bit, the switch pushes through the front of the cabinet. But it is quite badly damaged. I'll have to see if I can do something with that. Anyway, the parts that I took out, there's a switch, of course, a lot of tape. There was a little filter here, so a couple of capacitors and a choke, and that was tied up in line with the switch, which is odd because the power supply board's got this itself. So I don't know why somebody has decided to fit this. It wasn't fitted very well, and the wires are all fatiguing off, but it was there nonetheless. If you look at the power supply board, we have the same kind of arrangement there, choke, filter capacitors. So yeah, there's no need for that other one. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'll put this together, glue the other side. I'll probably put some hot melt glue on it just to hold it in place, and then I'll solder these across. I think my preferred method, rather than using wires, is to scrape off the etch resist and solder the copper directly across with plenty of solder, and it gives it that physical connection as well as the electrical one. So I'll go and put some glue on this, and then we'll do the soldering. So I'll put some glue on the other side just to hold it in place, and then what I'm going to do is just scrape off the etch resist from either side of the crack. So that's there and that one there, and then once the copper's exposed we can just solder those together. I'll just get a flat screwdriver and just gently work at that etch resist. You can see there it's exposing the copper. So I'll carry on and do that, and then I'll come back. So there we can see I've just scraped off that green, the etch resist, to expose the bare copper. And all we need to do now is put plenty of heat into that and bridge that across with plenty of solder, and that will be fine on that corner. There you are, something like that. I'll just go ahead and do that with the others, and then I'll come back. I've put the solder on there, just bridging that crack, which around here. Just plenty of solder, plenty of heat, and that now is very strong. So luckily there was only those two connections, those two pads. It was it broke probably in the best place it could have done on that board. So let's get this refitted. That's the new switch fitted and this board repaired. I'm going to resolder this wire. This is the earth wire that goes onto the, actually goes here. I'll show you the bottom of this monitor. It's this board here, this shielding, so the other cables should be soldered onto here. So get this board fitted back in. I'm going to have to, for now, just poke something through the front to reach that switch because I need to fix the actual button itself. Not sure what I'm going to do with that. Maybe I'll try and get something else similar. But for now, I'll get this fitted and let's see if this thing powers up. Okay, board's fitted. The earth-in strap that needed fixing, that's done. I've checked the rest of the board and I can't see any other damage, any other cracks. So, let's try this. I've left the switch in the on position, so I'm going to be using the plug to turn it on. And let's, fingers crossed, let's see what happens. Well, it's powered up. Got a green light on. Let's just turn this around. You're seeing the scan lines there, but I don't see that. Well, at least it's powered up, which is good. I'm going to go and get a video source and we'll try this properly. So we do have another fault here. After it's been on for a few minutes, we're getting a frame collapse on the screen. It looks intermittent. It's moving around. We get a single line, which is frame collapse, or sometimes it does revert back to the full screen. So I'm suspecting there's a dry joint somewhere, or maybe another broken connection on the board, which is affected when it warms up. So we're going to have to get that board out and take a good look at it. This main board is pulled out as far as it can go without dismantling it altogether. So I'm going to unsolder this grounding plate and just see the board, just see if there's any obvious signs of damage or dry joints there. I've removed the grounding plate from the bottom of the circuit, so it's soldered in quite a few places around. When that's off, it gives access to the rest of the connections. I couldn't see anything here which was causing that problem with the vertical line. I did see a couple of cracked connections here and there, which I've touched up, but yeah, nothing regarding that circuit. So I think perhaps the likely cause is this item here. This is the vertical deflection circuit chip. It's a TDA 2653A. It's a Philips chip. And I've unsoldered it, it was there. I'm going to replace this, I'm going to get another one. They're only cheap, so it's worth just replacing that first. This is probably the likely culprit of it now. If it was anything else, it was probably likely to be a broken connection or maybe a bad capacitor, but all the caps look okay, physically anyway. If this doesn't resolve the issue, then I'll start unsoldering some caps and we'll go down that route. But I will order this and fit it, and then we will come back and continue. With that IC replaced, the monitor is now working, I'm pleased to say. First of all, the scan that you can see there, this dark band here, this isn't something that I can see. It's a problem with all CRTs when you try and film them. It looks as though you've got this dark band on it, but it is actually looking good for me. The one thing that is wrong with it, if I turn the brightness up, you might just be able to see the top of the image there, this black area at the top and the bottom. I can't adjust that anymore. There is the pot that I showed you before that looked wrong on the back. That's the vertical height pot, and there's no adjustment on this, or very little. So I think somebody has replaced it with the wrong value variable resistor on there, so I need to change that. But I'm sure that once that's done, I'll be able to adjust the height correctly. Maybe someone adjusted that thinking that frame collapse was due to that pot. I don't know, but it was that IC that was the problem. So yeah, I mean, as I said, it's got a crack here and there's a hole underneath there where the power switch was, but for me, I'm just going to use it as a test monitor, so it's actually worked out okay for me. But if you've got a frame collapse, then this IC is the one that you need, usually. There is some other instance where the power supply would fail. So the power supply, there's one of the main caps near this is sometimes an issue as well, but I think generally most of the time if you get a frame collapse, it's this chip that's the problem. So thanks for watching, I hope it's useful, and I will see you on the next one.